this era of human rights, domestic workers still need to fight. Domestic workers stand up now to get our rights. We'll shout out loud. Domestic workers come up here to get our rights. Shout loud and clear. All day long we work so hard.
The rap just now is the domestic worker groups intervention at the UN High Level Dialogue on Migration and Development. So we do the side event. Civil society is only allowed for observation. We can speak after the government speak, but we do the lunch and we try to get the government representative to rap with us. All day long we work so hard. We got no thanks and we got no pay. ทำงานทั้งวันเหนื่อยยากลำบากไม่มีคำชมไม่มีค่าแรงกำลังทำเป็นภาษาไทยนะคะ We try to do it in different languages and try to get more and more domestic workers to do the rap. Something new, something a bit more active and creative. My presentation to look at gender justice and activism on the movement with the people on the move. Because we work with the women and men who migrate across the country. This is some picture to show you it's the context of migrant women working in, living in. There are some lessons for women. I want to start with some of the story for women because that's what we actually talking about. I simply put my foot where the thousands of other women have stepped before me. My step is excited, very hopeful, fearful, and different. Behind me lies with the world I know. It's a world of my grandmothers and their grandmothers. Ahead, it's a world of my sisters who have gone before me to build the dreams that keep our families alive. This step in Burma, the other step in Thailand, and this is the border we're crossing. If there was a story of man setting out on adventure to find a treasure and slay a dragon to make his family rich and safe, he would be a hero. Society says that. But if I'm not a man, I'm a woman, and then story changes. Society said I cannot be the family provider. I cannot be the setting out on adventure. Women are not supposed to take adventure. I'm not brave and daring. They keep saying that. I'm not gracefully and strong. Instead, I'm called illegal. This is brave and sometimes they call prostitute. It's supposed to be a sex worker or the traffic victim. That's the support for women we work with. The context we live in just before migration is not just come out as a migration. People have to move. Because in our region, and we talk about ASEAN, the Southeast Asia, is an extremely unequal regional distribution of opportunity, power, and resources. And many of the community have to leave because of the conflict. And we have a lots of number of migrant women and men who moved without any documentation. And when there are no documentation, it's the absence of protective legal frameworks, and it seems they have a few rights. The gender factor impacting on women and men, we try to mapping what is happened with the men worker and what happened with women, female worker. Again, women still working in the work which is not protected by labor laws. Domestic worker, sex worker, women agricultural. In job which is they not allow women to unionize and possible of stigmatization and discrimination. But men also facing the same if their jobs are not protected, especially like the men who are in the fishery industry. But for women, there's still a lot of the social restriction and violation. Many countries said, oh, we have to ban women because we know where they go and it's a bad thing happening to them. That is so protectionist. That is not what we want. Yeah, that is very controlled. And because of the restrictive immigration policy, and the structure, limited opportunity for women to work. When we talk about movement, so I try to start from a very grassroots, and the grassroots organization which I used to work with is Smart Foundation, still work with them. We work together with the migrant community because they stand, like increasing standing up for their rights. But one of the work of MAP I would like to stress in this forum is for women exchange. So we work together with around 400, 500 women every month. They're setting their own women exchange monthly meeting for women. So this forum is the movement building among young old, from women from different age who are migrants and refugees along Thai-Burma border, Burma-India border, and now we start a bit inside Burma. This meeting is provide a chance for women to organize, to discuss about what problem they have, the problem they faced. It also we start 10 years ago when refugee women have been raped by Thai soldier, and we support women to take the case to the military court. And women found out there are not at all any mechanism to support women who take the sexual violence cases in the legal Thai process. So after that legal case with perpetrator being punished, we work together with women to develop 10-step guideline to respond in the case of sexual violence. It's called automatic response mechanism. It's not an arm for shooting, it's an arm for hugging. And it's an arm for women to be able to have an enabling environment to fight on the case of sexual violence. This arm process is have available in 5 languages, which including in Thai, and you can download in my website. We would like to share and we would like to see possibility to also develop this kind of arm in the other community as well. With some pictures, women protest in the March 8. After the arm process, and together with women fighting along the way to say we want to use our arm guideline, we don't want the other guideline using by the other organization without consulting with women. So some international NGOs and USR have developed a protocol in the refugee camp, and also the arm process has been adapted in the refugee camp in Africa because they get inspired by the process in Thai-Burma border. But apart from monthly meeting, we are also organizing the annual year meeting. Some of us have been there. Women exchange get together. So we bring the women leader from each of the area to come together to discuss the skill building around women human rights. And it's a place for inspiring vision. We are willing the women to the other network which they haven't met in daily life, and they develop and sharing feminist value equality and the commitment to sharing the resources and skills and opportunity to have fun. So women can be expressing themselves. Apart from like the forum, we also organize the other activity like art activity, yoga. If women want to do Arabic, they can choose to do so. So this forum is had been developed into the other forum called labor exchange. We're supporting the migrant men and women come together, called labor exchange, and discuss the wide range of strategy to challenge the system of exploitation which they're in. This model also now starting in Malaysia in the last 5 years, we can move to live there. We formed the volunteer groups and we work a lot with the migrants, mainly from Burma, Cambodia, and some from Thailand. So this volunteer group is, we do a lot of workshop and the legal counseling to the worker, but also provide the capacity building to the migrant network and the local trade union. In the last 2 years, we try to link the migrant community to the local trade union in Malaysia. Both MAP and Worker Hub for Change, when we look at where the movement is starting it, and we realize, because we have a strong link with the migrant community, we act as a facilitator. We complementing and supporting migrant community leader and movement to be the main actor, not us. We involve them in the strategic action, and we working closely with them. So this is for us, it's very fundamental way to starting the movement with people on the road. If you're not starting to link the grassroots and the people on the ground, then you can't start the movement. And I think people will already see that before this panel. We also try to utilize on the policy and legal reform. But along the way, we can't go to the UN and say this is what the migrant want. So we have to make sure the relationship and the advocacy we have is based on ongoing shared analysis of context of the powers and issues which affected them and their host community. So every time it has to be discussed about what is the context of power issues happening now, what's going on, and what we would like to take them into the advocacy for policy and legal reform. The other regional group we work a lot is APWLD, สมาคมผู้หญิงกฎหมายและการพัฒนาเอเชียแปซิฟิก ชื่อยาวมาก But in the regional network, we look at as the issue of elimination of discrimination and improvement quality of life. It needs to be addressed through the intersectionality of gender, class, race, and ethnicities. And disability, yes, that's a system form of barrier which is happening, yeah. And also look at these issues. We found out more and more women still working at the occupation, which I said is not protected by the labor law. It's not yet allowed to unionize. And when we talk about vulnerabilities, we are quite sick. People said women are vulnerability, and we are not. It's not cultural. It's not inherent by you birth with it, but because of the structure, because of society, and because of the very unequal power structure, make women vulnerable. Yeah. So to address a concern, we have to address to the lens of structural vulnerability and the embodiment of the risk women faced. We part of the regional network, United for Foreign Domestic Worker Rights. The RAP we see from the YouTube is this network together with the other network, and we try to come up with the advocacy. In 2011, after the 100 year of ILO, finally they recognize women work on work. They have a domestic worker convention. Finally. So now ILO have a convention of domestic worker, and they have recommendation. So from now on, our job is again to take it back what we achieved in international level, convention, to work with the migrant domestic worker and the local domestic worker, and to make it happen. Yeah, Thailand not yet still ratifying. Forget about Malaysia. It would be difficult to get them to ratify, but that's where the movement needs it. Oh, it's come up like that. I'm done. We have to move on. But the movement is goes beyond one organization or the network of different NGOs. Yeah, I think we know the movement requires political aspiration and a compelling agenda for change. For the migrant advocate, for the last 10 years, we are fighting and challenging the notion of illegality, and that's still we're fighting again today. But I think the slogan, which we might heard a lot, is no human being is illegal, might be coming from our activism as well. Now it's a bit more on the improved treatment of undocumented migrants, and I think that might be something we take along the way, yeah, from that challenging of notion. We talk about gender justice, but if women doesn't have access to justice, there will not be a gender justice. And what happened with migrant women is we have a legal system, but they always excluded, and we have to ensure the legal system is included the group of migrants, refugees, and minorities, or the other groups who are not yet accessing justice. But what we do with them is we have to challenging this mindset in the practice. And we always targeted the government policy maker in national and in, regional level, mainly in destination country, to advocate for the change for the legal framework and work toward the concrete change of the migrants on the ground. For example, sometimes very practical and easy, like having a translator, which I think many community always come up with that, and some government officials have that. But in some area, they still don't have it. So this kind of practical enabling action, it has to be happen. Yeah? Otherwise, people are not having access to justice. Then we can't talk about gender justice. And we use our strategies. The strategy is more and more you advocate to change for the condition. There will some success, but then also the backlash. And for us, it's quite important to also working with try to ensure that the leadership and the voice of women and the need to support of human rights defender. Who are the human rights defender? Human rights defender is migrant workers themselves who defending their rights, and the people who defend the human rights of migrants. And sometimes they got sued by the company, sometimes they got backlash, get sued from the employer. So we have to work with them, we have to support them. And we need a space of the network to grow together to strengthen the number of solidarity. I think one of the strategies which might be useful is a commit to establishing the space at all levels to develop activity that combine the outside strategies, like marches, protests, and the inside strategy and advocacy and lobbying strategy. Every movement, we always have a tackle the trickle event. We have to work until society is a bit open up, until the media covering our issues, and we need to work on the orchestra and clearly convey the problem to the public. We utilize some social media, and it's quite very helpful, to mobilizing that protest. But using the social media are not the real activism. The real movement activity still need to take place on the street and marches. People still have to come out and telling the public and the government what they wanted. My concern now is we work a lot on the ASEAN, and the government are very, very clever of selecting some civil society to have a meeting with them. The question is, who are we representing? Do people know what we discuss with the government? Yes, and that is not the movement. So we have to ensure we're not falling in that trick of the government. Movement is accountability, and what the local Thai community or national resources did, like the Ban group or the other group in Thailand, is every time when they went to protest in front of the city hall, and the governor said, "Oh, let's go and talk in the room," and they refused. They said, "Why don't the governor come out and talk with 1,000 of the people here?" So that is the movement, not going inside the room and nobody knows what happened. Some tips along the way. We run the campaign, organize the protest. We have to cover the massive, the workload. How we cover them? We have to make sure people are not burning out. We have activity, we have fun, We providing a space for people telling funny story, amusing, and then getting people to work together as a team. And I think along the way of activism, we need to recognize the movement success and celebrate them. But we need to also follow up demands, which is when, but we have to work further on that. We have to raise the larger issues and propose better alternatives. It is very important for activists to create ongoing, empower activists and organizations to achieve other goals, not just one goal we put in there, because it's not dynamic. And we have to ensure activists become committed to the long haul. I think we always talk about empowerment, and then we quite forget what it means. We might have to define with the group we work with, what is the level of organization, formal and informal linkage, and define the practice empowerment as the multidimensional social process. If we work with migrant workers, we work with disability women and men, we have to make sure it's people we work with, they gain the control over their own life, and they will enjoy that process. The possibility of empowerment requires that the power can change. If the power cannot change, if it is inherent in the position of people, then empowerment is not possible. Nor the empowerment believable in any meaningful. It's not believable. And we have to, again, asking, I put some question to evaluate our activism. Because our forum talk about strengthening gender movement is assumed like we already have a lot of movement. Not quite sure about it. We have to evaluate who are the movement, what happened to our movement. There are some questions I put it there, which I think we can elaborate later. And when we work toward gender justice, it's not only about understanding inequality that exists, but also working toward making relationship more equal. Question is, do we have relationship with women we work with equally, and who are we accountable to? For the group who work for the migrant rights, and every time when we go to the meeting, the government is still talking about state or the national sovereignty. And that is something I think we might have to look together and find a way how we work together. Because either you ratify the convention or not, the favor of protection, you also accept human rights need to be there. And might be the time to work off the movement and challenging the reform of the UN. It makes no sense to have a good UN standard and convention which never get ratified, like 1990 Convention on Migrant Workers. Or government ratify CEDAW, but now Thailand and Malaysia keep delaying the process of reporting. What's the use to have this? And I think we can hold them accountability, we can hold them to make the report. But we can't hold them in the UN building, we have to make them accountable by strengthening our movement to do that. Thank you.